Welcome to the Business Chaser, your quick pour of strategy, clarity, and momentum. We skip the small talk and get straight to the strategy here in these bite-sized episodes. We're here to help you grow smarter, market better, and chase what matters, all in 15 minutes or less. I'm your host, Lauren Najar. Tune in and let's chat.
Hi, I am Payton Moran, and welcome back to Business Over Cocktails. I am going to talk a little bit about pivoting. Lauren and I got into this a little bit on our episode, and she mentioned that she loved how quickly I pivoted. So it just got me thinking about all the times that I've pivoted in my business, which has been a lot. It has been big pivots, little pivots, anything in between. And something that I always tell my clients, because a lot of people tend to get in their head about this, about pivoting, like what that means and how important it is. And I really just want to tell you, calm down. Just calm down, because it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal to pivot. Business is literally one long, endless pivot because things are always changing. Not only are you always changing and evolving and shifting and getting interested in new things and changing your opinions and getting bolder in your claims and your polarizing content. Not only is all of that happening, but the world is also changing. I think if you are a millennial, you can probably spot a marketing campaign, or Gen Z too, really probably especially. You can spot a marketing campaign from a mile away. Like you can sniff that out so fast. And so I think that we're coming into an age where our marketing is going to have to make a little bit of a pivot. It's going to have to be more conversational, be more reflective of who you are. So I just want to give you first and foremost, if you're considering a pivot, number one, you don't have to announce it to anyone. You don't have to make this big, grand, thing about, I'm changing my title. I'm changing my brand name. I'm changing my colors. I'm changing my services. Because 9 times out of 10, nobody is really, first of all, going to notice. People are all worried about themselves, even when they're scrolling. So just go ahead and get into it. If you want to make that pivot, just go ahead and do it. Just show up, say the new thing, sell the new thing, create content around the new thing. You really don't have to make an announcement that you've arrived in a different place of business. So some of the pivots that I have made, my biggest pivot was in my very first business. We talked about this a little bit on my guest episode, but I went from boutique owner to brand strategist, then to actually something I left out on Lauren's podcast, financial consultant, then to coaching. So it was really such a natural progression for me, but there was so many times during those pivots, each time, that I really psyched myself out. And one of the biggest times was when I was making the pivot from financial consulting and money coaching back to brand strategy. So I was working on graphic design websites at the same time, had gotten some financial licenses. So I was doing these 2 businesses at once. And I felt like I was coming to a point where I'd reached the end of my capacity. And I was like, okay, I got to pick something. I have got to shift. I've got to pick something. But the thing is I had been building my money coaching business online for about a year. And in that year, I had made less than $400. It was very obvious that something was not working. And so even with all of that in mind, I was really, really scared to make that leap because simultaneously, people were asking me about branding. People were asking me about strategy, asking me how I show up every day, asking me how to build their business. So I was really nervous to go from something that had physical paper qualifications, physical licenses, that gave me really some confidence to show up. And then pivoting into something where it's if I call myself a business coach, it's well, what am I really where are my qualifications, right? But the qualifications are in the experiences. So I was very nervous to make that pivot, but famous last words, give it a try, see what happens. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to throw something out. I'm just going to see what happens. I have this idea, piece of cake marketing in the back of my mind. People are asking me about marketing, even though I'm selling money mindset services and consulting and debt stuff. People are asking me about my branding. So I was like, let me just put this little thing together, piece of cake marketing. And I was like, I can see a photo shoot in my head right now, with cake. I'm like, this would just be really fun. And sometimes that is how the most successful stories start. It's like, oh, this seems really fun. Like, this seems like something I'm really just jazzed about. So I threw an offer out and I was shooketh to sign 16 clients. So that is like that's my pivot story. This is actually part of my keynote at my upcoming conference, or conference that has just passed since you'll be listening to this episode. So I was so nervous about making this pivot. But when I just let it all go and was like, I'm just going to see what happens and do what I want, it actually went the complete opposite way. And I've done that so many times where every time I just say, okay, I'm afraid to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway and see what happens, it's always worked out. And I think it's because, without getting too woo-woo or like energetic, because that's not me, there is a huge part that our energy plays in our marketing and in our messaging, because people can feel it when you're holding back. When you're showing up and you're selling, but you're not really excited about what you're selling, they might not pick up on it consciously, but people are going to pick up on it subconsciously. And when you have this fire and this excitement about what you're doing, it's literally infectious. Like, it's literally, that's the magnetic messaging. You see all these people talking about magnetic messaging online. That's what's magnetic, is when you're so lit up and in tune and embodying that message. So I know that messaging is such a huge part of the pivots. And a lot of times that is what holds people back. They're like, well, I have this idea, I have this thing, it's not fully fleshed out. I don't really know if it works together. I don't really know if it's validated. So that is my first piece of advice to you. If you're going through a pivot, if you're considering shifting your niche, shifting your offers, whatever that looks like, big or small, go back to your messaging foundations. And this is where I start in the client acquisition process. In these strategies with my clients, I always start with messaging. Because once you have fully comprehensive messaging, everything else is taken care of for you. If your messaging is comprehensive enough, then you can pretty much answer any other question about your business. Where are you going to show up and do your marketing? You know that because you know who your people are. You know where they're going to hang out. What am I going to say to move people along this buyer's journey of giving them the information that they need subconsciously to make a decision about me? All of that is answered through your messaging. So one of the quickest ways that you can just do this, just jot this down really quick. I'm just going to give you my framework. No strings attached. I'm just going to give you my whole framework for how I take people through their messaging. So first and foremost, you've got to know your people. That's what it starts with. You have got to know your ideal client. And when I say ideal client, I do not want you to know what industry they're in or how much money they make or what they look like or what gender they are. I want you to know what's keeping them up at night. I want you to know, what are their values? What are the things that we're going to align on, that we're going to vibe with? And a lot of times, this is where your personal branding comes in, because if you are upfront about your values, you're going to attract like-minded people. So you got to know your ideal client, internally more than externally. And then you've got to know, what are their problems? What are they going through? At the end of the day, we are in business to solve a problem. If you are not solving a problem, you do not have a business. That's just the name of the game. Nobody is going to spend their hard-earned money unless they're ready to solve a problem. So we want to know, what is this, first of all, big problem that they're struggling with? I want to give you a really quick example. Weight loss is a really easy, tangible example. Okay, so think about your big problems and your little problems that come up because of it. Okay, so maybe my big problem is, I want to lose weight. I've been trying. I don't feel good about myself. I want to lose weight. That's the big problem that we're speaking to. Now, the little problems that come up as a result of that are going to be, I don't feel comfortable in my clothes. I don't go to the beach in a swimsuit because I don't feel good about myself. I am feeling fatigued. I don't have a lot of energy, right? So you have this big problem that you're going to help them overcome. And then you have all these little tangible things that come up as a result of that big problem. So that's how you can get started on that. A lot of your content is going to be centered around that as well, because that's what's going to make people tune into what you're saying when you start making it about them and the things that they're going through. The next thing that you want to know is, what is the journey that this client has been on? This is something that is probably one of the most easily forgotten and one of the most impactful things that you need to be able to articulate in your messaging. What has this person tried before to solve this problem? This is a huge, huge part of the pre-qualification process for your clients. So let's go back to the weight loss example. If I am wanting to lose weight and I'm really attracted, like I'm just thinking about working with this one person who is a health coach or a weight loss person or a workout person, whatever, and all they're talking about is how they can help me lose weight, but they've not addressed all the things that I've tried before, I'm probably not going to make that move until I know that they're going to tell me something different. They are going to give me different, new, fresh strategies and information to overcome, right? And also it works on the other end of the spectrum that you're calling out people who have already tried to solve their problem, which means that A, they're motivated, they're going to do the work, and they're moving along this process. So for instance, if I want to lose weight, but I'm eating a ton of sugar, I have yet to pick up a water bottle. I have yet to cut out the sweet tea that I drink every day, right? Like if you are not saying those things, you might attract someone who actually hasn't tried to solve their problem at all, and they just want you to do it for them. And that's where you get into these clients who are not quote unquote self-led or don't do the work, right? Is you have to be clear about what have they actually tried to do to solve this problem before. So after we know that, we can move on to the solution. And I want to make this distinction between solution and transformation because they are not the same thing. The solution is what you do. The transformation is what they feel. Okay, so when you're talking about solution, this is where we really get into our offers, our frameworks, our processes. Here's what I'm going to bring to the table. Here's my part of the equation that I'm going to help you with. I have this solution that's going to guide you through this process. Okay, so transformation, like I said, is how they are going to feel. So this is what they are physically going to experience afterwards. This is going to be emotionally, tangibly. I really like to tell my clients to use both. Like in every piece of this framework, you need to try to pick out a tangible and an intangible. Because even though you're going to have some feelings, a lot of this is going to be emotional transformation. There are going to be tangible things that come up, right? So transformation is I lose weight, I feel good about myself, I start playing outside with my kids, I start wearing things that, flatter my body a little bit better. Okay, so you can see how you're kind of bringing in both these emotional and physical aspects to every piece of your message. Last part of this framework is your USP. This is your unique selling proposition. This is where the unique positioning comes in. And it's like, what do you do different? How are you different than six-figure Sally over here promising me 10K months? And this is where your personal brand is going to shine. This is where your unique opinions are going to shine, your processes that are different from other people. And a lot of times it's just easier to ask other people. I know that sounds crazy, but I worked with a local friend of mine who is a photographer at one point. And we kept talking about, how are you different? How are you different? I don't know. Just take pictures, right? And I'm like, well, what do people say about you? What's something that comes up again and again? And she said, well, people always say I'm really quirky. And I'm like, okay, there you go. She's like, but I wouldn't describe myself as quirky. I'm like, it doesn't matter how you would describe yourself all the time. It matters how other people see you and what they love about you and the things that are standing out to you. So now that's something that we can use in her messaging. It's like, hey, I'm really quirky. You're going to feel comfortable. I'm an awkward girl. You're an awkward girl. We're going to have fun together here. So that's her unique selling point. So just to recap this for you, we've got ideal client, problem, client journey, solution, transformation, unique positioning. So 6 things, and you can branch off from these 6 things into everything, into where you're going to show up, the offers that you're going to create, the price points that you're going to sell those offers at, the branding, the physical aspects of your brand, the logos, the colors, what's going to resonate. Once you have this foundational message and positioning, you have everything. You have every decision that you need to make for your business. So yeah, I hope that's helpful for you. Lauren, I appreciate you so much for having me on here today. If you're considering making a pivot, I just want to give you a little nudge and say, follow your heart. I know that's so cheesy, but follow the alignment because everybody's pivoting, nobody's noticing, and it just might be the thing that completely sets off your business.
That's your quick hit of clarity and momentum for the week. If it sparks something, share it with a friend or tag us in your stories at Business Over Cocktails and or at Lauren Najar. We love seeing what resonates. Don't forget, Mondays are for full-length episodes with rich conversations, and Fridays are the Business Chaser episodes. These are bite-sized insights pulled from our guests to keep you inspired and aligned throughout the week. Do you have a question or a takeaway? DM us at Business Over Cocktails. We just might feature it in a future episode. Cheers!